It started on a Thursday evening, the kind that smells like damp leaves and dying daylight. The town was quiet, tucked into the arms of a dull autumn, and everything seemed just a little more gray than usual. Ethan sat cross legged on his bed, hoodie drawn tight over his head. The flicker of his phone screened the only light in the room. His parents were downstairs arguing softly, too tired for rage, too bitter for peace. He'd long ago tuned them out, slipping instead into the pale blue silence of his phone, scrolling through nothing like it mattered. That's when it happened. Ping. A vibration like a breath on his palm. He glanced down. The screen lit up with a simple message. You received 0 messages. His thumb hovered, hesitated, then tapped the screen. No new texts. No notifications. Just that cryptic alert, blinking for a moment before fading into usual wallpaper. An old photo of his dog, Milo, who'd been buried in the backyard last winter. Stupid bug, he muttered, tossing the phone aside. But the next night, it happened again. Same time, same ping. You received 0 messages. This time, though, there was a sound. Subtle but off. A low crackle, like something dry twisting in the wind. It was over in a heartbeat. Ethan blinked at the screen, frowning. Still nothing. No texts, no DMs. Just a digital ghost of a message with no sender and no meaning. He turned the phone off completely. Not just sleep mode. He powered it down. He even left it face down on his desk. But the next day at school, he felt strange, unsettled, like something was pressing against the back of his skull just enough to make him itch. He told himself it was just stress, midterms, his mom's silent treatment, the way his best friend Jamie had been distant lately. But when he got home, the phone was back on, lit up on the desk. You received 0 messages. No apps were open. Battery level hadn't dropped. It didn't even look like it had been restarted. He stood still, staring at it. The message pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat, before fading again. That night, the sound returned, longer this time. A scrape behind the noise, as if something were being dragged across concrete, just out of sight. He stopped sleeping well after that. He told Jamie about it over lunch on Monday. Tried to laugh it off, make a joke, but even as the words left his mouth, they felt brittle. Maybe your phone's haunted, Jamie said, grinning weakly. 0 messages from the dead. Ethan laughed, but it felt wrong. Jamie didn't look him in the eye after that. By Wednesday, the pings came 3, for times a night. Always the same message. You received 0 messages, each accompanied by a sound that grew more organic, less static, more wet, like breathing, like lips parting slowly over teeth. He stopped checking the phone, stuffed it in a drawer, and left it there. Didn't help. The pings came anyway. Not through the phone now, but in his head, like an echo vibrating through the bones behind his ears. He'd wake in the dark, drenched in sweat, sure he'd heard it again. And sometimes, just before sleep took him, he could feel it. The message wasn't about a lack of something. It wasn't 0 messages. It was a 0 itself. A presence. A watcher. Waiting. And it was getting closer. On Friday, the mirror started acting strange. Not shattering. Not cracking. Just wrong. Subtle things. Delays in reflection. A shimmer around his face when he leaned too close. Ethan first noticed it brushing his teeth, the mirror fogging even though he hadn't turned on hot water. He reached out instinctively, and for a split second, the reflection didn't follow. His fingers hovered against the cool glass, only it was cool. It was warm, like skin. He stumbled back, heart thudding. The fog cleared, and the reflection was normal again. Nothing out of place. Just a pale, tired boy staring back. He didn't tell anyone. Not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't find the words. Every time he tried, the sentences felt absurd. Hollow. The kind of thing you laugh off in daylight, but whisper about when the lights go out. Instead, he tried distraction. Headphones on, music loud, gaming until his eyes blurred. But the phone was still in his drawer, pulsing in the back of his mind. 0 messages. A constant static presence, like a candle burning somewhere just out of sight. He dreamed of the number. Huge. Black. spinning in an empty white space. Not a digit anymore, but a tunnel, an eye, a hole in the world that watched without blinking. He woke gasping, certain he hadn't been alone in the room. By Saturday, something changed. He heard it again, not the ping, not the breathy static, but a whisper, not words exactly, more like intention, a summon. When he turned his head quickly, he sometimes caught movement just out of frame. The mirrors covered every single one in the house, even the one on his closet door. He couldn't stand seeing them anymore. The phone rang that night. Not a ping, not a notification, an actual call. Ethan froze in bed, staring at the glowing rectangle lying across the room where he'd thrown it days ago. The screen was lit. The vibration crawled across the floor like a pulse. Caller ID. Unknown number. He didn't want to answer. He did anyway. There was no voice. Just silence. Heavy, full, aware. Hello. His own voice sounded small, fragile. From the speaker, a sound began to leak. Faint at first, then clearer. Not words. Breathing. But not human. Wet, insectal breathing, like something growing lungs for the first time. Something learning how to imitate life. He hung up, threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall, bounced off, landed face up on the floor. The screen was cracked. Through the fractured lines, a message still pulsed. You received 0 messages. Only now, for the first time, the number flickered. For a brief, heartbeat moment, it shifted. 1 then back to 0. He didn't sleep. At dawn, he found his bedroom mirror uncovered. He was sure he'd taped it, covered it with his hoodie, but it stood bare, fogged lightly despite the cold air. His reflection stood there, motionless. Then it smiled, and Ethan didn't. By Sunday morning, Ethan was no longer sure what was real. His limbs felt heavy, like they belonged to someone else. Every shadow seemed deliberate. The house, usually filled with the clatter of dishes or the low murmur of his parents' routines, was silent now, unnaturally so, as if sound had packed up and left, leaving him behind in a vacuum of stillness. The phone hadn't stopped buzzing all night. Each time he glanced, it read the same. You received 0 messages. But now the number flickered more often. For flashes of seconds, 0 became 1. Sometimes even 2, but never long enough to make sense of it. And the noise, God, the noise. The crackling static had grown into something else entirely. A layered soundscape of dripping, creaking, hissing things. Not loud, but close, intimate, like someone whispering just behind his eardrum. He tried smashing the phone with a hammer from the garage. But Way returned to his room. The device lay neatly on his pillow, intact. Screen whole. Message waiting. You received 0 messages. He didn't scream. Couldn't. It was like the thing had taken even that from him. His voice, his right to react. His body trembled as he backed into the farthest corner of his room. He watched the phone like it might get up and walk. That's when it happened. The number changed. 1. And stayed there. His breath caught. He didn't move. The air felt thicker, like it had to be chewed before swallowed. The phone screen brightened on its own in the background. The photo of Milo slowly dissolved into something else. A mirror, not a photo of a mirror. The surface became one. His own face stared back, just slightly delayed, slightly wrong. Not a camera feed. Something deeper. Ethan rose, as if pulled by strings. He crossed the room with stiff, hesitant steps. Knelt. The screen's glow flickered like candlelight, even though his room was lit only by overcast daylight. His reflection blinked, but out of sync. The phone vibrated violently. Then a chime, soft, melodic. A new message appeared on the screen, the first actual message since this began. Let me in. He dropped the phone, scrambled back, but the screen didn't go dark this time. It watched. The mirror in the screen grew darker, deeper. Not black, but textured, like something was moving behind it, just beneath the surface. And the reflection, his reflection, began tapping, lightly, politely, against the inside of the glass. Then harder. He covered the phone with a towel, then stuffed in a shoebox, threw it under the bed, and sat with his back against the door, chest heaving. Heart tried to claw his way out through his ribs. But the tapping didn't stop. Not from a phone. From every mirror in the house. The one in the hallway. The one in the bathroom. The one his mom kept in her purse. A slow, steady rhythm. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in. He called Jamie, voice cracking. Please, he begged. Just talk to me. Just say something. Jamie was quiet a moment. Then, you okay, man? No, I think something's wrong. It's on my phone. In the mirrors. I think it's using my reflection. It wants to come through. More silence. Then, in a voice colder than Jamie had ever used. You already let it in. The call ended, and the mirror in the phone began to crack. From inside, there was no more pretending after that. No more sleep. No more school. No more daylight that felt real. Just the silence between taps. The glass echo breathing behind the walls. His parents had stopped knocking, stopped speaking, or maybe they were never home to begin with. Ethan couldn't tell anymore. The house felt like a waiting room for something that didn't believe in time. The phone stayed under his bed, but it no longer mattered. The sound came from inside his head now. Clicks and gasps like a jaw unhinging in reverse. He covered the mirrors, then broke them, taped them, hid from them. But he still saw. Sometimes in puddles. Sometimes in doorknobs. Once his own eyes in the bathroom. Before he smashed a light bulb and sat in the dark, fists clenched so hard his nails dug red crescents into his palms. The message didn't change anymore. It stayed. One message waiting. Like it had been patient long enough. Ethan didn't remember falling asleep, but he woke in the cold. Night outside. A moonless kind. The kind that swallows. The house hummed low, like it was exhaling slowly. He sat up and the phone was there. On his chest. Glowing faintly. No crack. No damage. The mirror surface alive with movement, like liquid silver shifting beneath the screen. He tried to throw it. His arm didn't move. The phone unlocked itself. A message opened. We are ready. Look, the glass brightened. And this time, the mirror didn't reflect him. It showed his room, yes, but not as it was. The lights flickered in the image. The walls were thinner, cracked. Behind them, something moved, long-limbed, slow, coiled like roots through wet earth, shapes that mimicked furniture, but breathed faintly, rhythmically. And in the center of the room, there was him, or something like him. It wore his hoodie, his face, but its mouth was wrong, too still, like it hadn't learned how to smile yet, but was thinking about it. It looked up from the screen and met his gaze, as if it knew the connection had finally opened both ways. Then the surface rippled, and it reached through. First fingers, thin, jointed wrong, shivering like antennae. The glass stretched, groaned, not breaking but bending, like breath fog against cold. Ethan screamed or tried to, but the sound caught in his throat. The mirror hand touched his chest. Not ice, not heat, absence. And then it pulled, hard. The scream came then, his body arcing off the bed, sucked inward through a screen no wider than a palm. There was no resistance, no sensation of bone or muscle, just the scream in the flickering room, spinning, spinning, until silence, stillness. Light blinked on, soft and artificial. The phone lay on the bed again, undisturbed. The message was gone. The screen showed the home screen, clean, untouched. A breath moved beneath the blanket. Slowly, the shape sat up, looked around the room. It reached for the phone with fingers too precise, too smooth. Then it smiled, perfectly, and the screen lit once more. You received 0 messages. But this time, Ethan wasn't there to read it. He was still inside, watching, pressed in against the other side of the glass, screaming with a mouth that didn't open.